Okay, recap for the Comedy Accelerator from January 24th, 2026. It's our 24th Zoom class, or 24th class, but this one was on Zoom because we are in the middle of one of Austin's couple of frozen tundra weeks. Every once in a while, this place that's absolutely not geared to cold weather gets cold and everything shuts down. So we were going to meet Saturday at the Creek and Cave in the outside area, but that was not going to happen at 20-degree weather with snow. So here we are. We decided to try Zoom. If for those people that came, there were about 12 people there that I thought it worked okay. I hate Zooms because there's no human energy in it. It's very, very hard for it not to become boring. There's no production value. There's no soundtracks, there's no multiple cameras, there's none of the things that keep you interested in video. And we don't even really think about the fact that, just trying to suddenly recreate personal conversation in this little square like this, bad system. Even this, directly talking to cameras, not great, but at least it's monologue. So I know that I've got to carry the moment, I got to bring energy, I got to give good information in order to keep people there so that they see value in it. So we did the Zoom, which takes a lot of energy from me, but it's fine. I'm not sure what we'll do going forward, but it did allow people from far away, Montreal, New York, to pop in and re-experience the workshop, because these are people who have come through it before, for the most part. In the career section, we started out by talking about networking, just how much of stand-up is success is found in the networking aspect of it, because it started with Lyle Jones, who was here from Nashville and was new, and had come in, was going to come to the workshop in person, but we didn't have it. So he was asking about auditioning for commercials, because I mentioned that it's one of the areas that stand-ups can move into very quickly, because it requires very, very little acting. What it really requires is you to be a visually interesting character. And Lyle has big mutton chops, and so he's got some kind of visual cueing. Haven't seen a ton of stand-ups like that. So he said he'd actually reached out to some of the low-level agents in the Nashville area where he's from. And the problem with that is that most of those people aren't very connected. There's a lot of scammy people in it. So it's a pretty precarious way of trying to find work. Easier, better is to network with people who are already doing that job. And I pointed them to my friend Rena Marie, who is a voiceover artist in LA. I've hired her for different things. It's been, she's been in that career for quite a while. And she's not like super A-level, like Simpsons or, that kind of cartoon stuff where you can make real money. But she's solid, and she does solid work. She does a lot of radio stations, she does a lot of events. She's done quite a bit of work. So there's a B level within voice talent work. And there are people like in Austin and stand-up who, again, see that and they go, I can do voice talent, I have an interesting voice, or I can do commercial acting because the demand is low. But they're also their own careers, and there's a lot of people trying to do that stuff. So the best way, go online. Everybody's posting about their jobs these days like this, or and try to connect with these people. Don't instantly ask them for something, but see if you can talk to them, see if you can offer them something, if you can do some kind of favor for them, charm them, delight them, entertain them in some way, and maybe they'll help you. People are pretty generous with that stuff. And then you can use their contacts to get in. This is what I offer people constantly in the workshops. Like, I've got a lot of contacts still in Hollywood, still in talk shows, even in sitcoms, and in stand-up. They get further and further away the longer that I'm not in that career, but I still understand that career, and I do hook people up. If I see a particular match between something you do well, some asset that you have that's developed to the point where somebody can use it in a professional setting. So if I see an asset, something you do that I think is professional level, I will try to hook you up. There's also the idea, so Sean Saldana asked about, how do you build a career online? He's very interested in this idea of the crossover between stand-up and influencers and digital people. And there's a clear crossover. A lot of it is, can you get can you get attention to your stand-up? So you build a big mailing list or a big following, and then you can draw people into the clubs, so you're much more likely to get booked. And that's real. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But again, social is its own world. And this is about the most social I do. At some point, I will upgrade the Comedy Accelerator social and hire somebody to actually do this stuff. But at that point, I'll have to make money with it. Right now, I'm doing it for free, so a lot of the social is pretty low-level production. Hopefully, the content is good enough for people to find value in it from the information, because you're not going to get a lot from the production. And I'm not great on camera. I'm not awful, but I'm not a professional actor, even doing monologue. So I point out to Laura Ramoso, who's built a big career, and I think she's doing stand-up-esque kind of venues, but she does impressions, and really good ones. The one that made her famous was the impression of her German mom, just how cold she is. And I've seen a lot of rip-offs of this now, or variations of it. You know, there's somebody doing her Dutch mom and things like that. So it's something that people really like, and if you can get a big enough following, then you can transfer that into live performance. Sonia was here from Montreal, and she also, this week in career stuff, she participated in a web series put on by a stand-up. It's also a live series. They're doing it live, called Better Than Therapy. And she brings stand-ups on and basically plays therapist with them. And they do bits, which remind me of the old Dr. Katz animated series, which is a shaky kind of animation that was on for quite a while, I think on Comedy Central, where a therapist, Dr. Katz, who's also a stand-up, I think, interviewed fairly famous comedians and then let them do their bits, because a lot of what comedians do is actual psychological dispensing of their lives. Ray Romano was on there. It had a run, so check that out. We also talked about in career that I've started to do one-on-ones with people, and again, I'm doing all this stuff for free. I won't do it for free forever. I won't maybe even do it forever just because it takes so much work. But both Quay and Scotty G came over this week. I've got a little performance space set up in my living room that's big enough that it's fairly comfortable to do stand-up workshopping in. And I did sort of focused feedback. My secret sauce, I think, as somebody who's trying to understand stand-up and trying to talk about it and be an expert on it and be able to teach it, is that there's about 50 things that I have in my soup of what I think makes for a really great stand-up. 50 different mega areas, like script, and one of the ones I was working on when people were coming here in person isn't script so much as performance. Like, how do you get, and psyche, how do you get somebody to break open their psychology, their psyche they've built as a regular human being, and move over to a stand-up psyche, which is very different. Some people already have it. A lot of people get into stand-up already know how to, control a room. They know how to connect to everybody instantly. They know how to be on stage. They know how to animate. They know how to pop. But a lot of people don't. And these may be funny people. A lot of times I find I have funny thoughts, funny psyche. They're a funny person off stage, but they can't change over into the stage psyche. So that's the challenge, and it takes more intense work and sort of one-on-one work where I can point things out. And when they hit something, they hit a right chord. It's like listening to somebody play the piano really badly, then suddenly they hit the right note. You're like, oh, that. If I can lock that in for people so they can see it and then repeat it and then freeze it in their brain in some way so that they can hold on to that and then learn from it and use it like a ember that they can grow from. That's the whole idea of trying to do this stuff. So one-on-ones, they take a lot. It's a lot of work, and I would charge upwards over $300 at least an hour to do this in person, maybe more. And I've charged that much before for professionals, but I'm not interested in doing that with people who aren't making money from stand-up. The last thing in career was we talked about marketing. Marketing sucks. It just sucks. It sucks. It sucks. It sucks. It's all grind. It's really not creative. It's really no fun. Like, the people who can market all the time, that have signed that deal with the marketing demons, more power to you. But it's just not nearly as much fun as going on stage and just making people laugh. It's, you got to organize things. There's got to be sales inside what you're doing, even though that can't be the dominant thing. But there's no doubt that being a great marketer really helps if you're going to build a guerrilla career as a stand-up. And stand-ups have always been doing this. Dane Cook and Kevin Hart were marketing comics way back before social media. Like every gig they had, they would bring cards and try to sign every person in the room up to their mailing list. And both of them built really big mailing lists, which is one of the ways they got into Hollywood. Because when they got hired for a project, they could be brought over, they could bring their social or their email list over and help promote the project. And you're talking, a few 100,000 people. That makes a big difference when you've got direct mail campaign and you've already got them interested in this particular act. So marketing, huge. I also point out Honest Fox Media, which I may have mentioned before, but they seem to be the only agency, really have their act together agency that focuses on stand-up and helping stand-ups. And they had Leanne Morgan, which was a huge success, who went from a road, club comic making probably $1,500 a week to I think she was listed as making $8 million last year. And it's the same act, same person, same character, same everything, but it moved over into digital media with somebody who knew how to package it and sell it and do the work. And so it does work. So at some point I'm going to reach out to those guys and see what's what. Because I'm interested in the whole thing about how do you take stand-up from its natural live settings, even in small settings, even these coffee shops and bars that people are doing things in, and laundromats and garages and every place else that they do stand-up, Waffle Houses. I know a guy was taking a amp and a microphone and a mic stand around to Waffle Houses in the South, and like on Saturday nights at 1 o'clock in the morning, and asking the manager if he could do stand-up. It travels. Like, it doesn't always work, but it's so unique when you do something like that stand-up in live settings, has that kind of energy to it. How do you turn that into digital and big settings is the question. So after the career talk, we switched up and we worked on scripts on Zoom. And we used the same model where I gave each person a minute, and then we all kind of scrummed on that minute. And it wasn't performance, there was no performance feedback because you can't perform really on Zoom. It's even worse than performing in a workshop where at least you have a stage and real people. Zoom performance just looks weird, awkward, kind of embarrassing for everybody. So people just talk to their script. And they delivered a little bit, but so that you could hear the punchlines. And it worked okay. Like, one of the things that I found that worked really well was that instead of having to talk verbally and give verbal feedback, which is hard because everybody ends up competing with each other for turns to say things, people start throwing comments and new jokes and upgrades to the jokes and fixes into the chat. So they were writing things while the person was talking, or while I was giving them feedback, or one of the other people were giving them feedback. So it got a multiplicity to it, which is what I've always tried to do, because I don't want it just to be my feedback. It opens up a problem in some ways when it's not just my feedback, because my feedback may not be perfect, but it's at least on radar for what stand-up is. I can't always make what you say or who you are funny with a snap of a finger, but I at least am not taking you into a direction where, oh, this just isn't funny. And sometimes people don't have radar. Some people who give feedback, it's not good feedback. They didn't get the joke, or they misunderstand the character that you're doing. And so that's kind of always weird. Like, I try to get in between bad feedback and the person who is building something. But in Zoom, it's a little harder. I don't have as much power. It feels weirder when I exert power. Like, in the moment, you can make it funny, you can keep it communal, but on Zoom, it loses a lot of that sort of human interaction element and human complexity to the interaction. So anyway, that was that. We did Zoom. I thought, again, 10 or 12 people went up and did jokes or read their script and got some feedback. So that was that. Yeah, next week we're going to be back at the Cave on Sunday from 1:30 to 3:30, I think, because we keep getting bounced around because of private events. And the next weekend after that is Super Bowl, so we're going to move to Saturday. So make sure you keep checking back to the Facebook group and the Instagram, because I'll always post at least 3 or 4 days before where it's going to be and what time. And again, I don't mind like doing Zooms and lives and recording things and things like that. But I just want it, when I decide to do that, I want to have resources for it. I don't want it to be just me in my podcast room talking directly to the camera. I want to make it more enjoyable and have more production value. So we'll get there. So that's it. That was the workshop from the week. Keep coming back. I'll throw another piece of stand-up into the shorts. And remember, this is all about taking you from where you are to where this kind of sort of middle stage, and then up here in the professional level where you can actually make money consistently. Like I do have people every once in a while come through the workshop and somebody like, oh, they're professional, they're making money. And I'm like, well, kinda, a couple $100 every 2 weeks for doing, a show isn't really money. Like, it's great. And I never denigrate people for what's up above them, but you're always looking and go, where are you and how do I get up here? And up here is, I'm making enough money to live on, and I'm not killing myself to do it. Maybe because I'm doing multiple things within entertainment, and maybe because I've moved up and get a good groove of a well-paying, silo within stand-up. But that's what we're looking for. I know a lot of people have ran rogue careers for years, decades, and never really make money. They're still broke, but incredibly successful as far as getting stage time and becoming known and working consistently. But it's just a killer industry and killer career if you don't figure out how to make money with each of the things that you're doing. And so again, that's my push always. All right, so check back next week. More work at trying to get people to be supernaturally funny, which is what stand-up actually is.